Hello, and thank you for listening to the Hilariously Unemployed podcast. I'm your host, Dana Duckworth, also known as the Big Speaker. My goal with this podcast is ultimately to get someone hired. I know all too well the impacts of unemployment and layoffs. My guest and I hope to provide insight and resources that will support someone in gaining their next opportunity. You can support the Hilariously Unemployed podcast and those who are impacted by unemployment by giving this podcast a 5-star review, sharing it with someone who's hiring, or someone who's hilariously unemployed. I hope that you enjoy the show and find some laughter throughout. Hello, and welcome back to season 2 of the Hilariously Unemployed podcast. I am your host and favorite opportunity seeker, the Big Speaker. I'm so thrilled to be back in this space with you all on Friday. I can't tell you how much I just miss this outlet and being able to talk to different folks, tell their unemployment stories. And you know, this podcast is all about my mission. I am truly trying to get somebody hired through this podcast, through using my voice, amplifying others in my network. So if you are hiring, you know someone who's hiring, you know somebody that needs inspiring, or somebody that needs a good laugh on this Friday, do me a favor and go ahead and invite them to the live show. If you're listening to us on podcast platforms, share this podcast with your folks. Don't forget to download, subscribe, and give us 5 stars. And we are always looking for sponsors, whether in my personal life, my next billionaire ex husband, or in my professional life. Yes, the podcast is always welcoming sponsors. So if you'd like to sponsor an episode of The Hilariously Unemployed, just reach out to your girl. My DMs are always open, both personally and professionally, to take your money, folks. And I do really cute custom commercials. So if you want one, just let me know. All right, y'all. So my rent. Well, it's been a lot going on. Like literally, y'all can hear the dog. He's back. You know, he never misses an episode of this show and a chance to bark at the Amazon person. So anyway, my life. Wow, am I still hilariously unemployed? Because that's usually the first question I ask my guests. So my friends would say no, but for the branding sake, we're gonna say I am hilariously unemployed adjacent. I am happily self-employed, happily living in my entrepreneurial space where I am beyond booked and busy from everything from speaking, facilitating, coaching to building websites for my friends to highlight their brands, supporting others in any way that I can. My life has been filled with so many opportunities to connect since I started this show and was telling y'all my sob story about not having a job. Now I have more work than sometimes I know what to do with, and I wind up in my bed, cuddle with my stuffed animals because y'all know I got ADHD and I need that sensory recharge. But honestly, I'm so very happy to be in this space. And I'm still on my mission, y'all, to get people hired. So, regardless of my employment status and how much I've been doing, this podcast will remain in this place until we do what we set out to do. Let's get somebody hired. And then if we get sponsored, we're going to keep this thing going, okay? So I would like to welcome back to the show a guest that we had on last season. This woman is truly a light. She is a shining light. She is so amazing. Her energy is something that really charges me up. And just hearing her and her spirit really helps me when I'm down. And I know that she's impacted so many others. She is still, unfortunately, hilariously unemployed, but it is my hope that we'll be changing that status sometime this year, maybe through this podcast or maybe through one of the connections that someone here has for you. I am welcoming back strategic HR person, global people operations genius and guru, JRuss, to the show. JRuss, tell the hilarious what's up. Welcome back.
Oh, hey, girl, hey. You're bringing so much good big speaker energy. Thanks, Dana.
Oh man, I had a long time. It's been bottled up. So I gotta get it all out. I am in full motion over here. My hands are going. I am just like so elated to be back in this space. And I'm so excited that I'm starting the show this season off with you. Your episode was one that was very highly rated last year. We had so many people listen into you and really take some tips that you provided during that time. So I'm so glad to welcome you back. And also because we need to recap our first of its kind, hilariously unemployed holiday party. But before we do that, JRuss, I'd like to get some of your thoughts on some of the recent news when it comes to layoffs. So, the unemployment rate, as they claim, is still 3.7%, and it's been that way since about October of last year. But I know I'm not the only one who has noticed the mass amounts of people saying that they've been impacted or they've been laid off. So, these are just some of the companies that have been on my radar, and I don't know if you've heard them anymore, but of course, I want you to share those. So, DocuSign, Snap, Paramount, Google, Instacart, TikTok, Duolingo, Wayfair, Levi's, eBay, Salesforce. And as soon as about 6 hours ago, Nike announced that they were laying off 2% of their employees. 2% doesn't sound a lot, but that's about 1,700 people that will be impacted. JRuss, your thoughts? Have you heard anything different?
I just hear everyone say it's a tough market. It's a tough market. It's a tough market. As they're trying to encourage me in month 9 of searching for my next opportunity. And while folks are kind to make those statements, it is tough out there. I've not heard anything different. I've also heard, and I know this is close to your heart, Dana, that so many companies are doing across the board layoffs, but also a lot of reduction for all things DEI. And to see so many companies a few years ago make such proclamations of how anti-racist their companies are trying to be and their focus on inclusion and belonging, to see that kind of go out the door in so many ways is a bit disheartening.
You said it, and I believe it, J. Russ. It is. It's truly disheartening to see that. And I think that with the position that I'm in, where I'm not a full time person, but I am contracting, I honestly think that the reduction in people who are in house doing DEI is the reason why I've been so booked and busy because they laid everybody off that did the job that I used to do. And now they're like, oh, can we just pay you to come and do it for us really quickly? So it's very, very sad to see that we don't have those in-house DEI practitioners because while I'm excited to come into these organizations and work with them for whatever time frame, you really need to be able to move the needle on a day-to-day basis and not just have me pop in for a session or just talk to your employee base. I believe that the role of DEI practitioners and in the future therapists, mental health providers is going to be pivotal in our workforce as we continue to grow and elevate. So I'm really sad that we're taking that step back. And then also in your realm, J. Russ, I'm still seeing these mass amounts of layoffs from people in HR. What is going on? Do the humans not need any more resources?
Oh my gosh, that's such a funny question. I don't know. They don't need my resources. Oh, but I want to comment on your comment on okay, lots of layoffs are happening in the DEI space and in the people space, but you're getting work, and that's amazing. And my hope is that a lot of companies didn't do well with positioning their DEI leaders, who are sometimes also their people leaders, but they didn't do well with positioning those folks to really have the power and authority to make change. And so my hope is folks can hear content like what you're sharing and then see the trickle from everyone from the CEO down. So it's not just, oh, this is associate person who does this thing on the side with programs, but see it really integrated into like all aspects of what we're doing. Because I mean, it's we're living in a crazy world, and people need to know that what they bring to the table matters, and especially when it's typically more on the margins, that they are included in how decisions are being made and how money is being made as well.
Absolutely. DEI is not a side dish, y'all. You need the full entree if you really want it to work and really want it to be a thing. And DEI is not just the role of those people leaders who you say do this additional job. DEI is literally the responsibility of everybody inside of your organization. So when you think about your policies, your practices, your procedures, whatever it is that you are doing on a day to day, DEI should be embedded in the culture of your company so much so that you shouldn't have these large shifts and you shouldn't have to lay those people off because you know why? When you have a diverse and inclusive company, you are driving more revenue, your teams are more prone to make better decisions, and you are innovating and kicking your competition's but to say the least. So there is your business case for DEI, although you shouldn't need it. Just be a good human, especially in the workplace, because Lord knows we need it. All right, JRuss. So you mentioned that you've been laid off now for 9 months. So talk to us a little bit about your path through this time, because we talked to you late last year, but I want you to talk about what's been happening since then and kind of catch us up in your job search and some of these crazy scenarios that you've been dealing with.
Yeah, I have some really unique and odd interview experiences. I'd love to share some of those. One of the things I think that I mentioned this the last time we connected was using these transitions around careers to do a lot of learning. And so I decided to study for what's called my SHRM certification. It's a Society for Human Resource Management.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was in the process of trying to get my brain to focus on large amounts of material. And they typically say, like, plan to study for about 120 hours before even thinking about taking the exam. And I'm trying to get my brain to focus, and I'm trying so hard. And I'm like, why is this not working? And so one of the things that I found out, and this is something that my family had talked about for years, is that I got an official diagnosis with ADHD, and that was really eye-opening. I'd kind of known, based off the way my brain works and my body works, like, hey, this is probably there. But to have that be official and then get started on some prescriptive ways to help focus myself, that was pretty amazing. I have good news. Even though it took me months and months to get my brain to work, I feel like both because of mindset work I was doing, and then also because of like really trying to figure out how to find the right cocktail of things that will help me. I was able to pass and get my senior certification for my SHRM license, which is exciting.
Wait, let's pause the celebration. Let's go, JRuss.
Literally found out last week that it's official, and so that's really exciting. I'm hoping that'll help me stand out in the crowd of resumes that everyone is reviewing. But also, I've been able to do some really cool volunteer type work. So I have a good friend who works at a company called Code the Dream, and I've been able to help some of their teams with some personal branding and LinkedIn tips recently. I did a presentation this past week on building self-trust, which is a big thing that people...
Wait, hold on. We got some things to unpack, JRuss. Don't give it all for me. Okay, let's go back to the ADHD. Okay, I want to say welcome to the club. Have you ever seen those Denzel Washington memes where he's stirring the tea and he's like, I don't want to ruin it for you? Well, those of us who are on that spectrum can kind of recognize it in others. So I'm glad you got your official diagnosis and you are working towards making yourself feel your best self. So I'm very, very happy for you. When I was finally diagnosed and was like, oh, that makes a whole bunch of sense now. I felt free. And one of the things that I do to help myself is literally I exercise like crazy, and it really helps me with my mental clarity. So it's a great way for me to start my day. ADHD is something that you can be as successful as you want to with. Don't take your diagnosis as, oh no, woe is me, and now I can't. Oh, well, yes, is you, and now you can. You just don't go on a straight line. You zigzag, baby, and people like that about me. So, JRuss, welcome to the... Okay, I'm sorry about all the laugh breaks, y'all, but we miss each other. All right, JRuss. So tell me, in finding out your diagnosis while you were going through, like, trying to figure out your SHRM, that is an ode to Missy Amelia Elliott, who is from where I'm from. So if you know that song reference, then that is why I said that. But your new SHRM certification, how hard was this?
I think that the content it makes a lot of sense. I've been in this space for about a decade. And so the actual content, I've had a lot of exposure to over my, the last decade of working in a lot of different types of positions. But the tricky part, like any standardized test, is learning how to take the test. And so in a lot of the study groups I've been in, it's like, oh my gosh, like, it's one thing to know the information. It's another thing to like try and apply that in this very structured way in a world that like doesn't really exist.
Mm-hmm.
So I found myself like wrestling with the questions and being like, this is not realistic. Like, let me tell you the 7 reasons why this particular situation isn't real life. And then I heard an instructor say, hey, you got to pretend we're in like SHRM world with zero, like no limitation to budget and no limitation to time and no limitation to actual like operations of day-to-day business. And so once I got over that block, I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. So learning how to take the test was a bit more difficult for me. But I feel like once I got into that pretend SHRM world, I was able to push through.
Of course you were. You're amazing. Also, I'd like to talk about the fact that, and I think it's because you're an ADHDer like me, you had a shower thought. Shower thought last year, and you jumped in my DMs and said, hey, I was thinking about this in the shower. Not in a weird way. But I missed the fact that since I'm unemployed, I don't get to go to a holiday party. And I'm sure other people are missing that fact too. So JRuss, tell us about your, not your shower child, but tell us about your thought process and what we ended up doing last year. I'd like for you to share.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like just being able to collaborate with an entrepreneur like you was really exciting. I brought up this random idea like 10 minutes before Christmas and was like, hey, why don't we throw a party for people who don't have a holiday party to go to? And really, I mean, I feel like within a week it came together. We had about 40-ish people there, and we were able to get about 15 different prizes for people to have that are really aligned with their job search and trying to figure out what's next for them. We had a really fun trivia that you hosted, and I think we just got to treat people in a loving way in a difficult season. And so it was really special to both be able to be generous. Like, I feel like generosity begat more generosity. It was really cool. And also just have like something fun to put together so that people felt celebrated.
Yeah, I was so surprised by the turnout and the people who found us who they weren't listeners of the podcast. Maybe they were connected to JRuss. Maybe they were connected to me, or maybe somebody just told them that we were having this unemployment party. And the amount of people that showed up, some who had RSVP'd and some who had not. But when they saw that we had a prize wheel, child, they were like, my name is not on there and I don't have a job. How can I get on the prize wheel? So we were able to give away coaching hours. We were able to give away resume building services, gift cards. We had some amazing sponsors. One of them, French's Leadership Solutions. We had the Joyful Leader who sponsored something. Shira Ali and Associates was also a sponsor during that time. Taz Rajabali sponsored something. So like the career coaches, the folks, they really poured out for our people who are unemployed for that virtual holiday party. And JRuss, if you have me, if you accept this ring, I say let's do it again. Even if we are millionaires, we can just give away more prizes in December.
I'm so down. I'd love to be the person who can offer the prize this time. That would be my goal.
Yeah, I'm good for at least a Dunkin' gift card. Yeah, that was so much fun. And we got to hear from some people. We did some trivia. They learned a little bit more about the show. It was awesome, y'all. Just connecting in that way. All right. So, JRuss, you told me you had unfortunately, some new interview process stories and some new things that have happened while you've been on your search. Some hilarious and some just shady, y'all. Please treat my good girl, JRuss, a lot better. Y'all recruiters, y'all hiring managers, don't do my sis like that. JRuss, tell us what's going on.
Well, I'm like everyone who has talked to anyone who is in the job search, there's a lot of just silence, right? So it's like you're supposed to be appreciative of even hearing back. So there's that element of like, okay, you're putting lots of energy and effort out into the world and just hoping that someone reads what you've submitted. But one of the more interesting dynamics that I had during an interview was typically, you might see like a project or something that demonstrates your actual skills. And they had a very particular way of doing business, particularly around recruiting. And I interviewed the CEO because he was quote unquote applying for a project marketer. And so they gave me a brief of the job description. They gave me the pretend resume of the CEO, who's actually, this kind of not very talkative project manager. And I interviewed the CEO before really meeting him. So that was really an interesting one. I also had one where they said, okay, the next application is going to be, or the next interview is going to be on Slack. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Maybe we'll do like a video huddle or something. But it was actually completely chat based. So I showed up at the designated time and there was no video or no voice. It was legitimately just typing back and forth with the person who was in London. And they said, we've got folks from 120 different countries on our team. And so we want to make sure you can communicate in this way. And I was like, well, that's interesting. If anyone on the call has ever done aptitude tests, which I think are just unnecessarily stressful, they say, hey, you've got 15 minutes to answer 50 questions. You won't finish them all, but we want to see how smart you are. Ready, go.
Gosh, that is anxiety written. No, thank you.
Gosh. Yeah. It's an interesting space out there right now.
Well, I've never ever heard anyone say they were doing a Slack interview ever in my life, so that definitely is different. I caught up with some friends yesterday who've been impacted by layoffs, and one of them was sharing the fact that she applied to this company that has pirate in the name. And when they reached out to her, they said, "Ahoy!"
Oh my gosh. Okay, personal branding or company branding.
I thought that was so funny. And then they sent out rejection emails to everybody accidentally. So the email that they sent to correct it said, "Arg."
Oh my goodness. That is fantastic.
Y'all gotta stop playing like that. Like, I get the puns, but like don't send me puns. We don't want my job search. Like,
oh wow. Oh my gosh. I bet I have been the person to send out those emails, and I bet they were freaking out. I go like, can I claw it back? Please let me take it back. I don't want them to see this.
They sent that email like, hey, you are no longer, in the running for this position to everybody that had applied. And then they had to go back and be like, hey, just kidding. You're still in the running. We're going to contact you in a week or so. And then they didn't contact her. They ghosted her. So that really sucked. But and just know that some of these companies, y'all, I mean, we got to really start putting people first and more human aspects first, because I get it. Things happen and you can make a mistake, but I feel like that deserved a phone call. You just shut my dreams down.
Surprises me. Like in the past, I've hired for lots of different types of roles. And if I've come in person or spent, 5-6 hours with someone in a process, I will give them a phone call. I will say, hey, I know this is a bummer. Do you want to talk about feedback? But there's none of that. It's kind of, we're moving on. At the same time, I know that recruiters, it's not like they're choosing to ignore you. They probably are trying to fill 10 to 20 to 30 different roles at once. And they're trying to navigate like hiring managers who say they want one thing and then they find that one thing and they decide they want something else. I don't think it's just difficult on our side of things. I think it can be really difficult for recruiters as well, because they're trying to navigate a lot of different dynamics. But it is a disappointment whenever you don't get to like really get a sense of like what happened here. There have been many instances legitimately in the last 7 days where I'm like jiving with a person. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like we will be such good coworkers. I can't wait to start working with this person. And then I, just get an email saying, thanks, but no thanks. And I'm like, what? Like, I mean, thanks for following up with me, I guess, but this is just really disappointing.
I guess that's how my dates feel. They feel so connected to me. They're falling in love. And then I'm like, not a fit. Really into it. That was fun, but let's not do it again.
You're breaking hearts, baby girl. You're breaking hearts.
Sending rejection emails, okay? You're just not a good candidate for this role. We found someone whose qualifications fit the description much better. You you mentioned talking about you mentioned earlier in the show resilience and kind of self-trust. So I'd like to go back to that and talk about that theme. How have you found your resilience? Because we're talking 9 months, and I know in the last time you were here, you told us that that unemployment process with the state of North Carolina was not one that was friendly. So how are you surviving, my friend?
Well, unemployment is no more. We are well past the day of getting unemployment. But I have been able to secure lots of consulting opportunities, which has been really cool. I am very clear that I don't want to build my own consultancy long term. I love working in internal teams too much for that. But I'm paying bills right now through amazing humans like the ones on this call who are like, hey, we've got this people issue, or we've got this operations issue, or we have this thing that we just don't have time to do.
Yeah.
Could you jump in and do it for us? And usually there's a sense of like, could you do it by like next week, kind of quicker than what you would even think you would need? And so that being available and being willing to kind of jump in and learn new things has been really helpful. I have been doing a lot of analytics work, which has been fun. So taking basically like lots of data and presenting it in a way that is both visually and like intellectually and also just like practically applicable. So I really enjoyed that. But in terms of self trust, I think so. I learned on a podcast from a lady who legitimately the podcast is called I Have ADHD. She talked about how so many people who have ADHD struggle with self trust. And as she was talking about it and kind of explaining and defining it, I was like, oh my goodness, I could enter anyone who's been socialized as a woman into this bucket. I could enter anyone who has like a religious background into this bucket. There's a certain dynamic of the struggle of trusting yourself that I think is just woven into our society. And there's elements of like perfection and like wanting to volunteer for everything and then struggling with following through and being disappointed when you don't meet unrealistic expectations of yourself. And so what self-trust isn't saying I'm 100% always going to follow through and I'm never going to let anything fall through the cracks. It's more saying like, I believe my experience is real and valid. And I believe that I'm going to be able to figure it out no matter what happens. And so that's been really interesting because it's been tough. Like I have a partner and we both are like, man, this is tough. Like there are times when we've gone to the grocery store and been like, we might not be able to get the groceries we want. And that is a level of privilege that I've never had to navigate that dynamic before. And so part of it has been being really creative with my partner. And part of it is like, okay, I trust that like I'm able to bring in these contracts. And if they run out, I can figure something else out. You know, we can go talk to our family in different ways. We can go to the grocery store and get a job if we need to. But really trying to center and the terms that I hadn't really spent much time learning about, but an external locus of control, or some people call it an evaluation. Like when this idea that if other people are happy with me, I can be happy with myself. That is often how I've operated. And a lot of that is like developmental processes that happen as a kid, you know, when you aren't really taught to trust your own instincts. And it's, you can often think it's not it's your fault. Like, oh, I can't trust myself and it's because I'm a bad person. But it's like, no, there's work that we can do to really believe that our perspectives are valid, that like, even if I don't have a salaried job right now, I know that like I'm going to be able to pivot. I'm going to be able to work it out. I'm going to make good decisions based off of the best information I have. That is not true every day, but that is what I'm working towards in the mindset work that we've talked about in the past, and also just learning like, I need to not really care so much about other people's perspectives and really try and figure out how to just trust myself.
Yeah, you do. Oh, JRuss, I love that. Thank you for being so transparent there, so vulnerable, and so open and honest, and kind of giving us a gaze into what it's been like for you. I will say, like what you were saying about self trust and, self doubt. And I struggled, and I told you this, I struggled with launching season two of the podcast because I felt like, oh, I need to come back with a big bang and I need to have a notable guest and I want to be able to do this and do that. And I wanted to have swag available for the release of the show. But I was missing it so much. I was missing this space. I was missing the connection and really the community that is here because I think in reflecting over the past, several Fridays where the show hasn't been live, it was a void for me. I think that
Mhm.
it's a void for me. And I've been doing I've kind of been on a little press tour talking about the show. And one thing that I share is that this show really helped me. Although I'm setting out to help others, and that's my mission. It really helped me by creating community around me and showing me what I was meant to do. Like I truly believe that I am meant to do this and use my voice in this way to help other people. So self-trust, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, just do it for real. I just did it. I said, JRuss, listen, I'm having trouble with launching season 2. The people love you. Let's go back. Let's give them some more. Let's tell them about our holiday party. And of course, my good friend was like, yeah, let's do it. So here we are.
I love that. The skill of resilience and even just trying cultivating that skill, it's not one we talk about very much in the workplace, but it definitely is something that encourages employees, inspires leaders, helps companies stay competitive and relevant. But this is what it's about. It's oh, I'm having a doubting myself moment. I wanted to be more prepared. I'd love to come on here and be like, girl, I got an offer. Let's celebrate.
Hey, yeah.
But I'm I'm still in the middle of this and it's a little embarrassing, but I want to talk to you. But I think that this kind of discomfort and dealing with the disappointment and working through it, quite literally enduring, adapting, and growing in the face of adversity and stress, that is a life skill that is important regardless of the job that we have or how we make money or how we show up in the world. So it's awesome to be able to develop that skill together.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks. Don't get me wrong, but
Yes,
I
it
think
does.
we are better for it. We are better for it. We are able to create out of dust. We are able to make things happen. I know that you said you've been tapping into your creative space when it comes to your art. And sometimes you just don't have the time to do that, right? So I think about the amount of time that I spent working for other people and now the amount of time that I have really just creating my own dreams and creating a space for myself. And I'm grateful for the time because it allows me to use all of my creative energy to fuel something that I'm passionate about. Tell us about your art because I know that's something that helps you.
Yeah. So art and salsa dancing are two things that mean a lot.
Hey, I didn't know you was a salsa dancer, Jay Russ.
And yeah, those are two things that I'm I never want to make any money off of them. I just want to enjoy them. And so there's something called art journaling, which Google it, look on Instagram. There's lots of fun ideas of what this looks like. I'm not someone who's I'm an amazing drawer. I just throw some stuff on a page and play with, scraps of paper and put them together. But I think that it may have been Brene Brown. This talks about how you go from head to heart with your hands, and having creativity as a part of your process can help you take things that are stuck in your brain and really bring them into your body. And so, my husband and I, legitimately every single day, we send a piece of art to one of our friends who, oh my goodness, the world has slapped her and her family upside down, and we don't need to go into that. But every day, we send her a piece of art, and it's not anything that you'd make a ton of money off of. It's just a little inspirational quote or a word or a small little affirmation or word of encouragement. But that process of knowing, hey, her life feels like it's fallen apart. We've got this small little act of love that goes a long way. And I do the same thing in my own. I just take an old book and rip out some of the pages and do art inside of the book. And it helps me. Some people are really great at meditation or prayer or have those skill sets of being silent by themselves. But part of my learning with ADHD is that kinesthetic learning is a thing. For me, my brain gets quiet when my mind is focused on something my hands are doing.
Right.
And so being able to create with my hands, do something that's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but helps me process what's going on, calms my body in a way that very few other things do.
I like that, JRuss. When I think about trying to calm myself, sometimes it's literally just being on the phone with my friend, the joyful leader herself. We do a
Oh,
lot of shadow work. I mean, we don't call her that for no reason. Of course, it's her personal brand, but she literally is a joyful leader. But part of it is just like we'll be having the most random conversations, and I'm just able to spill my brain no matter how weird or how wonky, because these thoughts get a little, y'all think y'all get a lot of me on this podcast. Child, the joyful leader is like, huh? How did that? But at the end of the day, it'll all connect at the end of the conversation. But we literally will just sit there and shadow work. And I will get so much done because the way that my brain functions is like if I could just dump all of that randomness that is happening out, I'm still so productive with my hands and I'm clicking and I'm clacking and I'm building a Canva or doing this thing. So it's truly amazing to see the ways that our brain functions and the ways that we can kind of navigate that ADHD space. So something else that you shared with me before we got on the call was this idea of trading services. Now y'all know Usher did the Super Bowl and he has that song Trading Places. We're not talking about that. We're talking about trading professional services. JRuss, enlighten the people on this act.
yeah. So I have, I now call her a friend. She was someone I just met on Facebook who was doing some really cool trainings in HR. And she had an opportunity where she was like, hey, get in early, get a great rate on this training program that I'm doing. It's basically going to be, once a week for the whole year. And I was like, 100% sign me up. As soon as I get a job, will gladly pay you for this. And we put a date on it. And that date came and went. And she
Really?
was like, hey, remember that time? And I was like, I am so embarrassed. I can't pay you.
Oh
Um,
man.
and I was blown away by her response. So I made an offer to her and I said, hey, over the course of, getting to know you and hearing you teach, I know that you have a few goals, and the goals that you have, she's a, new business owner,
Mm-hmm.
probably don't have time to do them. So I'm like, why don't I take a stab at doing this for you?
Mm-hmm.
And, she was so generous. She wrote me back and she was like, I do not do this for the money, 100%. Like, let's trade services, let's do this thing. And it's been so cool because I can show up to her weekly training sessions, and not feel guilty and awkward that I haven't compensated her for her work. And I can also use my skills to, hopefully help her build her brand and make things a little bit more automated and simple. And so I've had a lot of little moments like this where I'm like, I'm going to be really uncomfortable and vulnerable and ask for this thing that I need. And I don't even have the words to do it.
Yeah.
And the way that people have responded, the generosity and the kindness and just like the human moments, it's been really, really incredible.
Growth comes in the most uncomfortable of places, when we are flexing our abilities and we are trying to navigate through tough times. That is when we have our most exponential growth. So, kudos to you for saying, hey, sis, I ain't got that cash, but I could do this for you. And it working. And you all are going to be lifelong colleagues and friends because one of the things that fuels you is not the paper. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's the passion.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are literally. So when we did this holiday party together, y'all, HR had JRuss had a spreadsheet for spreadsheets, and me, I told y'all I add in color, so I don't Excel. I could go in there and I could plug the things in, but if you ask me to formulate a formula, baby girl, no. But meet me on Canva, and that's where I'm gonna cross you up. So JRuss is just very much in the sheets, and I'm very much in the creative space of like, I'm gonna show up, have my ring light, I'm gonna wear my lip gloss, and I'm gonna say what's up to the people. We're gonna have a good time. So knowing what your strengths are and being able to offer those strengths to somebody else, that's an example of community. So in January, everybody was saying like, what's your word of the year? What's your word of the year? They were making the post and saying, and I was like, I don't know. I was trying to figure it out. Well, here we are, February, Black History Month, may I add. My word of the year is community because I've been able to fortify that in a space, and I'm thankful for each and every one of you that are a part of that. JRuss, back to you. So, every single episode, we have to talk about this AI thing. Tell me what's up with ChatGPT and what you've been doing with it lately.
It surprises me how many leaders, especially of organizations, have a fear-based approach to this. I've heard of very progressive profits and pretty innovative school systems basically being like, absolutely not, don't use these tools. It's all bad. None of it's accurate. It just like a complete like fear perspective on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when we do that, it's just going to keep us behind. It's going to allow other people to get in front of us and to be more competitive and to be, have easier access to information. And so a lot of my learning since, I mean, it's only been a couple weeks, but a lot of my learning since no longer studying for SHRM has been around building prompts with ChatGPT. Like we all know that we can go into ChatGPT. There's a free option and a paid option. You can go in, you can ask it to like, give it 3 different things in your refrigerator and ask it to make a recipe for you, or ask how to explain quantum physics to your second grader. But there's so much that goes into getting the best information out of it. And so I've been doing some studying on legitimately the best way to create prompts and what kind of inputs to give ChatGPT so that you can get the outputs that you want. And I am by no means any kind of expert. There's lots of, and I may give you a couple links to put in the notes, but there are a lot of great leaders who I've watched on LinkedIn and kind of been blown away by. And so a lot of it has kind of been what I've learned is called FAFO. Have you ever heard of this?
No,
FAFO?
please explain.
It's F around and find out.
Wait. I've never heard anybody say it like that. I just say the words. I'm gonna be straight out with you, but go ahead.
Yeah, so it's a lot of just like, let's figure out what works. And so I decided, hey, I'm gonna go pay the $20 for a month. I'm gonna get ChatGPT 4 and then learn all the different plugins. So the access to information that's available and the way you can outsource it or like export it into other tools that help you be more productive is unbelievable. And so that's been a fun way to kind of try and figure out how to stay relevant and to think through how in my future job, when I get it, we're just going to speak that, I'd be able to use this to make me more efficient, to make me more effective. It's not to outsource my job. It's basically, I heard one YouTube instructor say, think about the most ideal, amazing intern that you could have to help you with your work and write a description of that person. And that's basically who can help you in the ChatGPT process. And so it just basically lets you work faster and more efficient and more intelligently. And I by no means think it's going to take over our jobs. And I also don't think it's something that you want to shield people from. I've heard some companies creating policies that say, don't use this. It's 100% outlawed. You're going to get in trouble if you do. And it's like, throw a half-written sentence into ChatGPT and ask it to make it, sound more professional or sound more witty. Or like if you're planning a retreat for your staff and you're doing superhero characters, throw something into ChatGPT and say, hey, make this sound like Batman wrote it. Yeah. And it just like makes life a little bit more fun and a little bit more creative and gives you the ability to, you could totally probably write that email yourself. Absolutely. But it helps you just use your brain in different ways, which I find really fun.
I'm glad you said that. So I will give y'all my confession. So written communication is my least favorite form of communication. I can write and I can put my thoughts out and share them with you all. Like I can do the LinkedIn posts, but as you see, my LinkedIn posts are just how I talk because written communication is not my favorite form. Running this big old mouth on this microphone is my favorite form of communicating with people. Like I'm live and in person. But ChatGPT does help me with this podcast thing. So I always speak in a we as if I have a team, but it's literally me. So when it comes time to edit the episodes and put them out on all the different platforms, ChatGPT is the one providing me with my descriptions, my hashtags for YouTube, and helping me do that process. When I first started, I didn't use that tool. And I was like, what do I say? What do I do? How do I do this? And it took me so long. But ChatGPT has helped me focus on the part of podcasting that I love, which is talking and connecting with my guests. And it's taken on that written communication form. Now it's not perfect and it has to sound like Big Speaker because I only sound like Big Speaker. So I really have to allow it to get to know me and be like, no, that's not how I would do that. And I have to make edits to it, but it's a great tool and it's truly been a resource for me, and helped me in creating this platform that has connected with so many folks.
And I want to respond to that and just say, like, amen. Like, let it use AI to help you do what you do well and essentially outsource the things that you don't really want to spend your brain power on, because that is such a smart way to work. I mean, obviously, if you're a lawyer and you need to quote, particular citations from a particular book, it's not going to help you in that way, but it can help you communicate more professionally or help you, edit your stuff before you put it out there. I also think that, so many tools have integrated AI into what they're doing. And the idea of, your word community being paired with AI has been really fun in my world. I've got an amazing new friend. Her name's Carrie, and she, her and we were studying for our SHRM certification together. And then I was like, okay, we don't need to do that anymore. We're good. Mm-hmm. But she's like, let's keep hanging out. And so we've been kind of exploring the different functions of what we need ChatGPT to do together. And so she'll kind of do some learning on her own. I'll do some learning on my own. And then we'll get together and share what we've learned together. And it's been fun to be able to kind of make those discoveries with a friend who we're both trying to get after the same type of work.
Absolutely. I'm going to be reaching out to you. Girl, send me them prompts. I need them.
Oh, for sure. For sure. You got it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I did a keynote earlier this week. And so I know before in season 1, I was telling you I was a 20-minute keynote killer. Well, this company's call ran a little longer. So I had to be the 15-minute keynote killer. And let me just tell you, I smoked it, baby. So now I am officially the 15-minute keynote killer. If you need anything express, I'm your girl and I do it the best. But
I love that. I love that. Yes, hire Dana for 15 to 30 minutes.
Well, yeah. But they were saying that they were hiring their first CAIO, Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer. I was like, oh, what? I didn't even think about that being a thing. But yeah, it's a thing. These AI jobs are coming. Like AI is here. Get yourself acclimated to it. Learn what you need to learn. Make sure that whatever AI you're using, because we know it's biased. Myself and my friend learned that when we were trying to make images of ourselves in the form of game characters for an upcoming conference, it tried to make us Asian or white women each and every time, or drastically exaggerated our beautiful Black features to where we were unrecognizable. So there is bias in AI, y'all. So make sure that when you are using this AI, you check the bias that the AI has by making sure that your biases move from unconscious to conscious. And if you need somebody to help you with that, I've got an award-winning unconscious bias training. It's called You Can Sit With Us, Creating Inclusive Spaces. All right, JRuss, I would like for you to tell a future employer, anybody who's listening, or a connection who has the key to your next opportunity, what it is that you're looking for, because I truly hope this is the last time I have to have you on this platform saying that you're still hilariously unemployed, child.
Oh my gosh, I enjoy you so much.
That's what my boyfriend say. Oh my
gosh. Yeah, I am very actively looking. Most of the positions that I'm looking at are like a human resource business partner, an HR BP, or a people business partner. I'm also looking at senior manager and director roles of people, or of culture and people, or HR, or all the different ways people want to flavor it. But I think the thing that makes me stand out the most is I've had experience across so many different industries, and I come from a background of community development. And so I've got this, SHRM certification now of like, the things in HR, but you're bringing with you a level of entrepreneurship and creativity that focuses on pairing business strategy to people initiatives. Mm-hmm. And so that's what gets me excited. That's what I want to be about, making decisions off of data, and then also like making people feel like they belong and can do their best work. I love being able to remove blockers from staff whenever things come up, mm-hmm. and so that they can kind of use their time the best way that they need to use their time to get their work done. And so I am excited to come back soon and say, hey, I got my job based off of the conversations we've had. That's my hope.
Awesome. Okay, community, do y'all thing. JRuss is already pretty. Now we know we got to get her paid, okay? Because I like my guests to be pretty and paid, just like me. So do your thing, JRuss. I want to thank you once again for being my opening act for this season 2 of the Hilariously Unemployed podcast. Community, thank y'all so much for pulling up on me today and spending yet another Friday of your lives with the big speaker. Hilarious, I missed you so much, and I'm working on that merch, so we will have some things that are coming out very, very soon. I'm so excited for what this new season will bring, y'all. I am still actively recruiting people to be on the show. So whoever is hilariously unemployed in your network, send the link, tell them to reach out to me so we can get them the support that they need and hopefully help them find their next opportunity. I have been your host and the big speaker, y'all. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.